He has taken profits already. Tesla's making block sales of Bitcoin. Okay, hold on. Sorry, the guys. I apologize. No. Hold on a second.
I can hear all of you.
Sorry, guys. Here we go. Just going to figure this out here. What is that? I want...
Difficulties.
Apologize, guys.
No worries.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay. All right. If you guys can just give us a little thumbs up or something that you can hear us now, that would be much appreciated. But was just talking about the Coinbase IPO here. Just saying, I don't think I've seen anything as bad as a worse first day of trading than I did on Coinbase. But maybe Robinhood. I think that's coming up. Maybe that's going to beat this. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's the talk of the town. I was listening to CNBC while this IPO was going. Sweet, we're good to go. Everyone can hear us. And the interesting thing. So I got a whole bunch of points here that I want to sort of go through. I'll make them really quick. Because there's a lot to talk about. I mean, everyone, I haven't seen even the financial media talk about an IPO as much as I did when I was listening in on Coinbase. 95% of the volume was the retail crowd on the IPO, and the other 5% was the institutional side.
Hey, that's just like the gold rush.
Well, what we're going to hear about going forward, right? And I'm sure we're going to chime in and talk about this for a lot, but it's essentially, is cryptocurrency becoming a new asset class? And I wrote this. I said that this is the IPO for Coinbase was a watershed moment for cryptocurrency, because now it allows institutions a way to trade something that has a more direct link towards Bitcoin. Recently, we've seen money flowing into, I'm just going to name some companies and show your charts. Tesla, we saw Riot Blockchain, right? So these are all stocks that are traded on the NASDAQ, of course. We also saw Square Inc., and we also have, we have two more. We have MicroStrategy, I believe that's MSTR, my bad, and also GBTC. So these were the only ways to play, Bitcoin in a sense, because all of these companies that I just mentioned, Tesla, Square, GBTC, which is the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, Riot Blockchain, and MicroStrategy, all have Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Just to reiterate, Tesla's dumping Bitcoin in block sales. Just so everybody knows again. I know. I got to point the finger. That's all.
Well, not just Tesla though. So now ARK as well. If you guys heard, Kathy Wood at ARK bought $250 million worth of Coinbase shares, and what she did to do so was sell off not the whole stake of Tesla, but they did sell off $170 million worth of Tesla stock. And what I want to say is,
does that say something?
I think what's happening now is basically all these institutions are going to be dumping a lot of those stocks that I just mentioned, because they would rather
have direct access
to hold Coinbase as the link to a cryptocurrency, because it's actually much more better directly correlated, I guess, with Bitcoin per se than Tesla, Square.
Well, there's a hell of a lot more potential for speculation. Tesla's kind of reached the end of its tether as far as speculation is concerned. I mean, right now it's just a matter of how long he can bullshit us to believe that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. Still hasn't made a lot of... Has he sold all of his houses? Has he made any of the charitable donations that he said he would make? Has he actually even paid more than $1 per year in a facility that they have in New York? And his company's worth almost $1 trillion. Give me a break. I just lost 2 viewers. Sorry, guys.
Joseph, you're going to say something about...
Yeah, I'm just about to say that I have considerable issues with Riot Blockchain, and I don't like the fact that they are. I don't like how they're generating electricity in Texas.
Right.
There's another company in that list I have issues with, and I'm actually happy that the money's flowing out of them. I mean, they should be punished for what they're doing.
So I just wanted to show you this. This is just how large the market cap was here. But the institutions, I think that's a really important focus here for Coinbase, and I do think what they're mentioning, right? Institutions now gain exposure to crypto through a more traditional way, obviously by buying just shares of a company. They don't have to go and buy tokens or deal with exchanges and futures and all that kind of stuff. And what people are saying is Coinbase is now beginning to legitimize cryptocurrency and institutionalize, that's a word that I guess they've just made up, cryptocurrencies. But of course, we've talked about this in previous shows. The crypto hardcore purists, they do not like this because it does not meet the crypto and the Bitcoin ethos. which was to be away
Essential
from big banks, institutions, and government. But we know now that regulations are probably a shoo-in. I think it's very likely going to happen now, and we're going to see what happens with these traditional cryptocurrencies. But that's why I've been looking at DeFi, because DeFi seems to be, what cryptocurrency was supposed to be. And yeah, I think it's going to be great. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's going to be bullish. But yeah, the entire
the floodgates are already starting to open. We're seeing companies up here already, like Mogo.T, I suppose, from the Toronto Stock Exchange, has widened their hold onto CoinSquare as of more or less today. I wrote the story earlier today, with the intent of Mogo seeking out regulatory control from IROC.
Okay.
I mean, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more things like that happening, in which cryptocurrency exchanges that already have built names are going to start seeking to do the same thing that Coinbase did, just more or less, probably at a smaller scale.
So what does that mean for Coinbase then? Right now, they get most of their earnings. It's really dependent on trading fees, and that's something we should talk about, because you mentioned their estimated revenue results, but the big caveat here is that these estimates can be thrown out in an hour or in a week or in a month, because it really depends on the popularity of Bitcoin and basically how many people are trading Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin.
Right. It's not just Bitcoin. I mean, it's a number of different coins as well. Yeah. But for the most part, it's a cryptocurrency exchange which relies only on trading fees. Is like someone who buys a cow and they use it specifically for milk, and they don't make cheese, and they don't use any of this. They don't use any of the other avenues towards revenue, towards profit that the cow represents. It's literally just cutting themselves off the knees. You see, I like I said in the article, Coinbase, I can understand why Coinbase doesn't like the idea of getting into DeFi, because it does undermine their basic business model. But there's just so many different things you can do with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could potentially, like what Binance is doing is they have their own smart coin, in which they allow people to come in and build programs on top of it, and they charge them a fee. And they're making like a stupid amount of money for that. Like, we think Coinbase is big because of their market cap right now, but that market cap is not going to stay the same. And if Binance were to go the same route, I think they might be able to justify the market cap from which Coinbase now presently has, because of all the subsidiary options they offer.
Do you follow the Binance CEO a lot? I know he's a pretty big name. I should probably know his name, but do you think Binance is going public?
No, they haven't said anything about that. They probably he's too smart for that, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. He seems more of like a purist type to me. But we'll have
he's a capitalist. He likes making money. He will go where the money is. And right now, I don't think it's in the cards for Binance.
I think a lot of what's going on in the space is why I will avoid anything that has the name attached to it right now. It reminds me of the prisoner's dilemma. There's nothing good about being in a prisoner's dilemma. The best outcome is everybody sells, not holding. So for now, it's kind of best to watch for those people who actually how that game plays out, and then kind of make choices from there on to kind of see if Coinbase actually can make that revenue, meet those revenue expectations. They're now in the public sphere, so people are going to be probing through, and the government is going to know how these guys recognize their revenue, how much trading volume comes in, and actually putting regulations on if there's too much volume, how do they cut off and hold trading, that kind of stuff. It's just going to pry into their business and kind of slow down the hype there, and then people will make their choices either to hold it based off the initial premise that it's decentralized, centralized, and I feel like after that, the prices will the demand and supply will adjust accordingly once people start probing into it.
I mean,
Right, so-
I get why a lot of traditional folks don't want to get into this kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
the opportunity cost of educating yourself on this stuff is probably, I mean, could theoretically be larger than what you could potentially make by just doing the same thing you've always done.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's
Joseph,
also
let
one
me ask- Joseph, I was just
It's
going to
one
say.
that's from the universe, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's that?
I was just going to ask, well, both of you, Joseph and TK, the people who are buying cryptos right now. I know, I've been following cryptos for a while. Joseph, obviously, you have as well. I mean, you're our master of coin and our technical king. But I'm a purist, right? I'm one of the crypto purists. I enjoyed crypto because it's a way out of government currencies, and it's a way, to hide your money from government.
But the thing
and
is, if we
away
ever
from
switch to
central
crypto, if we ever switch to cryptocurrency, it'll be the exact same system. This is what I don't understand, right? Yeah, we can all cry about the idea that it's going to be free and all of us are going to have access, and no, they'll make a few that are legal, the rest illegal, and you've got to spend it just the way you spent it all the time anyway. So what is the big difference besides closing international settlements? That's it.
Well, there is going to be, I think, a government crypto coming, but again, the original ethos for cryptos was the whole decentralized.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, but I think
So
people were
what-
just like they thought about, let's say, 3D printing and everything. The possibility is there, but is the reality there? Right?
But what
Can we make the
what-
dream real? And I don't think so.
But with
I
all
think
this
we
new
can.
money, now, like the Joe Schmo and the Jane Doe who are now buying cryptos, do they necessarily even care about those original ethos anymore, or do you think they're just buying cryptos now because, hey, it's something that can make me money?
Yeah, it's a get rich quick.
It's mostly something that will make me money. I mean, the Ted Kaczynski Unabomber types, you'll find them all undefined. They're not the ones doing business with COIN.Q.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing right now, which no one can actually quantify, is I wrote about a while back, basing it off Ray Dalio's research with his team, is at the end of the day, Bitcoin is currency. Its value is determined by price, by demand-supply relationship. First off, we know the supply. It's hardcore 21 million or whatever the number is, depending on how fast people are mining it and whatnot. But the supply, it's now the demand side that determines price.
See, the more I
Not
think
to
about it, the
say-
more I think the word cryptocurrency is a misnomer.
I think you're correct.
Because we've extended cryptocurrency to include a lot of different things. I think if we want to be a bit more succinct in our linguistic evolution of this thing, we should start calling it crypto assets.
Right.
Because not only is it an asset class, but it expands to include things like nifties,
Yep.
which are not currency.
No. That's very true,
just-
and I think that's the only way we should or could look at it, is the fact that it is an asset class. I would never want to use it as a currency because its value fluctuates so much, and when it doesn't, I don't think it actually would function. Does that make sense?
And again, like, why would you use it as currency if it rises every day?
Yeah, totally. It would be lunacy to spend it.
That's that kind of.
It's sort of funny because, like, everyone was talking about it being money, and a few months ago or years, I was in that camp saying, it could be a currency, but now it's completely okay. Maybe the guys who are saying it's a safe haven, like, that's correct, because why would you want to spend this as cash?
Yeah, totally.
It goes up
We're
all
just
the time.
thinking away for years.
Honestly, with that premise changing, people are not going to put 50% of their institutional portfolios in Bitcoin. On average, gold is 10% of most institutional funds, below even.
Below, yeah.
The demand there is capped, let alone with the backlash that some of the assets have. So I can only imagine a few more. Like, the upside is still pretty capped now on the institutional side,
I think
but
for the most
retail
part-
could do whatever it wants.
Go ahead.
Retail could do whatever it wants. It could need to buy up, and if liquidity is still available at the time, and that's what's scaring a lot of the institutions is, okay, we want to get in, We want somewhere that we could explain to investors that we're getting in, how we explain that we can't. And a lot of these guys use these models that plug in mathematics with 80 data points and stuff like that, which Bitcoin still doesn't have. So they can't use those models to put it into their portfolios, which doesn't allow them to explain it, their mandate to clients and stuff like that. And a lot of their clients are pension funds who want historical data and all that. It's like, it's going to take a while, but Coinbase's introduction to the market just allows people to explain it a little more to their clients and say, oh, hey, look at the trading volume here, and it's a sustainable client base. People are continuing to trade. It's pretty similar to the New York Stock Exchange, where you see volume like this, and it makes sense to kind of, like Joseph is saying, classify it as an asset, and that's not confusing. But when people put it in asset now, people will be like, oh, so is it used for hedging, speculation, or investment? Do you use it to protect your portfolio? Do you use it for capital gains, or do you use it to make bets on government policy? Like, it's gonna go through like that evolving thing. That's when I think the prisoner's dilemma will be over. The people who had the initial premise of just holding because they made 100% probably look for other things, because they're not there for the main decentralized crypto, like the assets and stuff like that. So I feel like it still has a long way to go, but it's a good step in the right direction to get Coinbase.
Thing is, TK, I mean, it's still really early in Bitcoin's evolution. We were looking at the price, but you got to keep in mind this thing has only been around for not even 20 years yet, and it's still got like 80 or 90 to go, and it halves every 4 years, which means that as supply diminishes, the demand is going to see price jumps. I mean, how much is this thing going to be worth in 30 years? We had to consider, 4 years ago, when it halved the last time, it was worth what? Not even $1,000.
No,
and now
absolutely.
It's like,
my question to you, Joseph, though, is if it never achieves a functionality, what value is it? Do you see what I'm saying?
The demand side is very
important.
You can't predict the demand.
And we have a lot of guys. Sorry, TK. We have a lot of people that are sort of like considered investment icons who are saying if we don't get off our ass and get an official cryptocurrency like the Chinese government, we're screwed, right? And I'm thinking about it and I'm going like, how does that really change how we do business? I mean, yes, international settlements, same day, but it's like Amazon. What difference does it make if you get your package in 3 weeks than in the next day? Does that make sense? Right?
Yes, I mean, it wouldn't technically be a crypto asset or a cryptocurrency anyway, because it lacks the decentralization.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know exactly where it's coming from.
That's the key.
I mean, any kind of, I don't know, any kind of hacker attempt is just going to be stealing money this time instead of documents.
I'm like really worried about the central digital currency. You guys know my opinion.
Well, no. I think digital currencies as a central item is also distressing. Absolutely, because it doesn't free you up. It again places the trust in a third party, right? Because they won't let us have the network. You can guarantee that, right? It will be. They will have the 51%, right? So that's not democratized at all. And we're even harder under the thumb because they know exactly where every penny is, whatever they end up calling it.
Yep, exactly.
So once they classify the asset class, the state will come in and tax it accordingly. Yep. It will be taxed either as a collectible, capital gains, or income. So it's just, once people kind of classify it and it has that track record that took 30, 40 years, it will eventually be probed and stuff like that. It's kind of inevitable. That's kind of what Ray Dalio was pointing to, that it will be probed eventually. But for now, you just can't tell when that will be, depending on so many variables on the demand side. And the supply side is a little more predictable than the demand side.
And it's great you mentioned the demand side, because even Brian Armstrong, the CEO, very similar to what Ray Dalio said, but regulation, right? Like, governments can make it tough to buy cryptos, or can even make it much more difficult to hold it, and that would definitely affect the demand side, right? of things. So that's one of the big threats that he's looking at. And he also mentioned, a lot of cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff as well. But quickly here now, is this Coinbase IPO going to attract more institutional money? Like we mentioned earlier on, it was a 95% retail crowd and 5% institutional crowd that was in the IPO, and obviously they want to make the institutional side a bit bigger. Or do we need something like a crypto or Bitcoin ETF, which is probably the next step in legitimizing and institutionalizing crypto?
So somebody that puts it out can play both sides and screw everybody?
Well, I mean, ETFs in the U.S. There already is an ETF for Bitcoin in Canada.
There's three Bitcoin ETFs in Canada already operating. But in the United States, there's actually there's kind of an arms race for who's going to get the first one. I mean, we have one. I wrote that story last week. It was Fidelity Capital, and I think the Winklevoss twins are back into it. Van Eck, I don't know, I can't remember them all. And Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which was the, I guess the cornerstone of that particular article, is looking to shift their business model, which is basically functioning like an ETF, over into an actual ETF. Now, my question is, who's going to get it first? That's the company we want to be looking at.
No, absolutely, and I think it will have to be a grand adoption, and they may jump on board. I'm just thinking about the idea that we spend a lot of money. I guess I'm pretty loud now. Okay, we spend a lot of money on. There we go. That probably takes it down a bit.
And now we can barely hear you.
Now we can barely hear you.
Oh, even better. Okay.
11.
I'm turning up to 11. Basically, Jesus, I'm going to stand back here. I don't know what the hell's going on now. AI is only used by about 5% of the big companies. Despite what we all think it's a trend and everybody's doing it, not everybody's doing it. In fact, very little people are doing it. Same with quantum computing. It's all really sort of elementary and in the first steps. So basically, is this Coinbase thing somewhat similar? Is this all flash and dance and not really applicable? There we go. Did you hear that? I'm really sorry.
Kind of what I was leading to. Am I loud now?
No, you're fine. It's just
me
that sounds like I'm like throwing in. I apologize.
I think if now people are talking about Coinbase going into these public companies, these institutions' investment portfolios, it goes to what Vishal was talking about analyst expectations, about earnings and revenue expectations and stuff like that. And just like, and I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this, just like the mining sector with a commodity that's attached to the revenues and is really correlated, Bitcoin will be cyclical and the exchange will be crypto asset cyclical.
I don't sometimes backlash. It's you can prove that with good solid data.
Yeah. No, a lot of people just, I don't want to classify it as a commodity, but it will have a cyclicality. Revenues from Coinbase will have a cyclicality, just like the mining sector with coal or something like that. And just that will even put it further into this little compartment of subsection of something, and that's how they will eventually pitch it to.
I mean, right now I think we're approaching, I guess, what we could call peak Bitcoin. Is that everything else is going to be jumping the shark, and we're going to see a slow, sad decline down into another crypto winter. Now, at least that's more or less what I think is going to happen. Like within the next 6 months to a year, we're going to see a decline.
For sure.
The emphasis is going to disappear, and we won't see a crypto winter like we did in 2018, but we will definitely see a downturn. The hype will go away, and the strong companies will survive it as like they did last time.
So Joseph, let me ask you: is there any cycles that you can look at right now? I remember last year and maybe a few years before, but everyone used to look at Chinese New Year, right? That was a time when Bitcoin would get more demand, and it seems like that cyclicality's disappeared. No one ever talks about that anymore.
Well, what I'd like to do, what I might do sometime in the future, is I want to look at the pattern fluctuations from Bitcoin's beginning in between each halving. I mean, it's a 4-year period, right? And I want to see if there's any correlation between the first, second, and third iteration. And if there is, then we can definitely draw comparisons and maybe make some statistical analysis based on the patterns that we see. Maybe we can, I don't know, work on predicting the future.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody like crystal balls?
And I just throw this up because obviously in the gold side they always talk about Indian demand and Diwali and all that kind of stuff. But I tend not to see it too much, on the charts. But again, with gold, the paper market,
Testing.
different entities there. Maddie, you have anything to say about this? You're a bit quiet today.
I really don't like this world of things, to be perfectly honest. I would never invest in anything like this because the amount of research and time it would take for me to actually understand all of this seems like I could be spending my time in a better way.
Right.
So, I mean, would any of you recommend to young investors that this is like a good idea or a good realm?
Oh, Maddie, you just made one of the best points. If we are the generation, right, that's going to be using the asset in the next 10, 20, 50 years, and I've had so many of these conversations where I talk to people and I'm like, oh, have you looked into Bitcoin or have a wallet? Tell me about it. And usually I get the same reception. I don't even know what it is and how it works. And I don't blame them. I barely know how it works as well. And it's because it's a niche. It's like it's a public niche, but there's few people who are actually understanding what's going on, and some people who say they're understanding what's going on. Time will tell who actually. It's mortgage-backed securities all over again. Everybody was a mortgage-backed security specialist until it imploded, and nobody is a mortgage-backed specialist anymore. There's only a few people who actually make money, and that's what Joseph is, alluding to. There's going to be some winners, and there's going to be a lot of losers. But who is the last person there? That's the point. I'm like, I can't really put a target on the demand to know where the price will be. If people who are just day-to-day users are not going to be using it, they don't want to replace their US dollar or whatever they're using or their Visa or whatever, it's hard to predict what kind of demand relationship it will have in the future. And I think that's where analysts are having a problem. And it's not a traditional outlook at it. It's just, okay, so now that it's there, how can we make a model that will predict what's going to go on? And there's too much variation in the demand to actually get something that's reverting to a mean or something like that.
Well, it's kind of something.
Yeah, it's
kind of like
sad.
Sorry, it's something kind of like something I said earlier to TK, and just said the opportunity cost, the amount of money you could have made by doing more traditional things might be outstripped by the amount of money you stand to make from Bitcoin. In terms of education, like if you want to teach yourself to do it, if you want to teach yourself stuff about this, it might take up more of your time that you could spend doing other profitable things. Yeah.
I remember I mentioned this to Joseph yesterday, but something I heard on CNBC when they were talking about Coinbase, less than 1% of the entire world is holding cryptocurrency. So, I don't know if that's a bad thing or if that's like,
it shows you where the value's at.
Well, I mean, some people might be thinking, okay, there's a lot more growth that can happen, whereas other people might be saying, okay, that shows you, like you just mentioned, right, that not many people are interested in it. So you can take it either way, but I thought it was a pretty crazy stat. I never really thought about that, but 1% of the world, less than 1% of the world is actually holding some sort of cryptocurrency.
Well, it includes the confluence of a lot of different, I don't know, technological know, a lot of different varieties of technological know-how, right?
Mhm.
Like you got to be able to use computers, you got to know about cryptography.
Exactly.
You have to know, I don't know, chart reading itself can be hard for some folks.
And you have to have
And
access
it
to
takes
computers as well.
access through a computer, not to mention seed money and the courage to get into it. I mean, that's going to eliminate a large swath of the population.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's where, again, I want to hit on that demand thing, and I apologize for being that annoying worm in the back. It's each person's utility is very different. We don't model utility the same way economists do, which is what analysts are using right now, assuming everybody has the same utility from Bitcoin or happiness from the happiness relationship for Bitcoin for people is being modeled the same way.
Mhm.
But it's just not, that's not a fact. Some people to actually access it. Some people want the gain, but the pain of loss is greater than the gain for them than there is for other people. So that's why it's like, it's a wishy place right now.
Yeah.
But only time will tell you who's actually gonna, that prisoner's dilemma game, who's actually gonna hold, who's gonna sell. And after that jumble of a mist goes on, that's when you kind of know, okay, this is where this is now,
Yeah.
and this is how people are going to use the asset. And once it's like that, oh, I'll jump in Coinbase, give me a nice price, I'll go in. But as of now, it's a waiting game.
Any other final words from anyone?
Stay away from it.
No,
Do your homework. Do your homework, and if you're going to get in,
homework,
make sure you
that's
get
good.
in on make sure you get on the right side.
Yeah.
With the right amount of risk. That's good for you.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing, man. Like for investing, trade in things that right? Whenever people ask me about investing ideas or whatever, I'll give them a layout about what's going on in the world and stuff. But generally, if you're investing in things that and you enjoy, you'll enjoy the process and you'll enjoy the research, and things tend to be better.
Awesome. On that note, that is all the time we have this week. Hopefully we will see you again next week, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.